Welcome and thank you for joining me for this tasty recipe. We have a brown sugar cilantro lime bacon wrapped shrimp. It was super good, you guys, and very easy to make. So let's get into these ingredients. I'll be sure to list all of the seasonings that I used in the description box below. I also made Yukon potatoes and asparagus as a side. And I want to make a note that I used the super colossal shrimp instead of the extra large or large. They're just a bit easier to wrap, but you can use whatever you find. So I did use 1 tablespoon of the toned cilantro-lime seasoning. I used a half a tablespoon of smoked paprika, or you can use regular paprika if that's what you have handy. And then I used a half a tablespoon of garlic salt because of the bacon being salty and seafood is salty naturally. I only used a little bit of garlic salt and then a half a tablespoon of onion powder. And here I am just giving the seasonings a little bit of a mix so that it's combined, and I am evenly coating the shrimp with the seasonings. Okay, mix. Just adding a little bit more so that it was evenly coated. And if you feel that this may be too much seasoning, to be honest, it was perfect. It wasn't salty at all, and it was the perfect combination of flavors. So here I'm grabbing my bacon. I used 1 strip of bacon to wrap 2 shrimp. And I attempted to cut it at a diagonal. I guess it really doesn't matter, but I tried to cut it at a diagonal to help give it a more pointier beginning for when I started to wrap the shrimp. So I started at the tail and just started wrapping around and down, giving it just a bit of a tug so that it's nice and tight. And this is how you can avoid using toothpicks, by using 1, a larger shrimp, and 2, giving it a bit of a tug. And then actually on this next shrimp, you'll see kind of that I was able to tuck that bacon end in under the last wrap on the shrimp. So just make sure you start at the top, wrap it around, give it a nice little tug, and then when you're done wrapping it, just tuck it in at the bottom. So now I am taking the leftover seasonings that I had from the shrimp coating, and I am adding 3 tablespoons of brown sugar, and adding a half a stick of butter. I actually should have used maybe 3/4 of a stick of butter, but it worked out just fine. And I'm just mixing it, making sure that it's all combined, breaking up any little chunks of brown sugar. All right. Now I did line my pan with aluminum foil. I did not spray the pan with any oil or spray because the bacon is going to get greasy on its own, so it won't stick to the pan. And just coating each shrimp evenly, front and back, and making sure that there's a generous amount of the mixture on each shrimp. And here I'm just sprinkling a little bit of garlic pepper. I put garlic pepper on everything. And off camera, I went ahead and put the shrimp in my air fryer at 375 degrees for about 15 minutes. And while that was getting started, I went ahead and peeled my Yukon potatoes. Now, I like a little bit of skin left on my potatoes, but you can peel all of the skin off. You can leave all of the skin on. Actually, leaving some of the skin on would make it a bit crispier with the technique that I'm using. So I cut the potatoes into about 1/4 of an inch size pieces. And instead of boiling the potatoes in water, I use chicken broth. Just adds a little bit of flavor to the potatoes. And I'm adding my washed asparagus and my potatoes to my baking pan. And yes, I know I forgot to cut the ends off of the asparagus, so you can make sure that you cut your ends off of your asparagus before baking them. So here I'm just lining the potatoes and the asparagus up on my pan, giving a little sprinkle of Mrs. Dash garlic herb seasoning. I'm using some garlic salt, just a light coating of the garlic salt. A little bit of onion powder and the smoked paprika on the potatoes. Here I am giving my vegetables a sprinkle of olive oil. It's going to help the potatoes get crispier, and my asparagus actually had a bit of a crisp on the ends as well from the air fryer. And here I'm adding just a little bit of the brown sugar mixture that I made to coat the shrimp. And you can see it was a little thick. That's because I didn't use enough butter. So that 3/4 sticks of butter will go a long way with coating your shrimp and your asparagus. Okay, here after that 15 minutes at 375, I'm just giving the shrimp a light dab of the brown sugar mixture. And I wanted to make sure that my bacon was not chewy. So just putting it back in the air fryer, this time at 350 degrees for about 10 minutes. And after that, here is the final result. This recipe literally took me 30 minutes to prepare and cook, and it came out wonderful. Here's a close-up picture of the shrimp. It was juicy. The bacon was crispy, so just make sure you follow those time instructions and temperatures. And here's a close-up. Go ahead and take a bite. Thank you for joining me.